It's like I've got a couple of mates who like a drink and that sort of thing, and again, they're probably doing a bit of damage to themselves and their relationships and their reputations or whatever, but it's legal and that sort of thing, and they just get on with it. My experience with methamphetamine, my experience with ice, there is no separate story. It ends the same for everyone. The story's the same for everyone. It's just terrible and terrifying what this drug does to you and to the people around you, and how you function as a human being in society. Lost train of thought there. Year 2 at the pub. So my world came in around me. I completely lost interest in rugby. I started to lose interest in my family. So hard to say that. At this stage, as it stands, I said last video that it was November. It's actually October. I'm a fucking idiot. As it stands now in October 2016, I haven't spoken to one of my sisters for quite a while. You know, my relationship with my father became extremely strained during that second year of that lease, to a point where, you know, it was so fractured that it was almost non-existent, the relationship. The interest I used to show in my nieces and my nephew, and particularly at one stage, I have a memory of when they were all at home at one stage. My sister had flown over from Perth, and my other sister was home from Sydney, and all 4 nieces and nephews were there, and I used to be, you know, front and centre. Especially in Cowra, I'd take half a day off work and whip them all down to Farley's for a swim at the river or something like that, and none of that happened, and it really didn't ring true until they left, and I realised that had happened. But anyway, that's what happened for me. So there's not much more to really make a point there, apart from the fact that obviously led to the stage of my intervention. Look, I suppose one more point that really should be made is one about law enforcement in town. And what I'd heard, again, I'm just sharing, this is my experience, what was going on, that I was on the radar, and I didn't heard it, I experienced it. I was dragged front and centre by one of the leading detectives in Cowra, and the inspector, to Cowra Police Station, and was accused of methamphetamine use personally. And I'm sure that there was probably a bit of a broadsword conversation warning that maybe there was also some supply happening within the venue, and thank God I never got into that world. And I'm not here trying to defend myself. I'm telling you that my drug use was my own use. I managed to sort of really just completely almost destroy myself and some people that were pretty close around me at the time, and I'll talk more about that later. But I was certainly on the radar with the local police force, and I know that, I probably still am, and I've made my bed. I've chosen to partake in illegal activity, and I have to live with that. On top of that, I heard also through the Cowra grapevine at one stage that I was also being investigated for solicitation. And again, when you look up the definition of that, maybe in the New South Wales Police Force or the legal Eagles documents of the Australian or our legal system, we break it down into it. Basically, I was either engaging in sexual activity, or people were engaging in sexual activity with me either of us were providing drugs. Either way, whether I was prostituting myself out or someone was doing it for me the other way, which was just I suppose was personally the beginning of the end for me. You know, being gay in a small town and then having people start flinging around mud that you're having sex with men for drugs is, you know, awesome. It drove a nail into me that, you know, it was very hard to deal with. But I suppose the drug was making it easy to deal with. I was just fobbed it off and thought, oh, fuck it, I just kept using drugs anyway, so it didn't really matter on the side. I knew it wasn't true and whatever, I just got on with it. But, you know, I suppose that's another side that I should mention, what was going on. So that led up to the intervention. Word had gotten back to some very close mates, or probably two of my best mates in Sydney, that whatever reason, Party Dave, Drinking Dave, had progressed to methamphetamine, ice taking Dave. And one of my mates tells me where he was standing when he heard the news and exactly what he did and the reaction he had, and I'm not surprised. They moved very quickly, got in touch with my best mate who was located in town, and I think within, you know, a week or 10 days they were knocking on the door. I hadn't slept one night, was doing the beer lines, cleaning the beer lines one Sunday afternoon, evening. Had been informed by one phone call that they were coming to Cowra, and I wasn't sure exactly when they were arriving, but I just remember the moment looking at that back door, and there they were, two good mates from Cowra, from Sydney, and my best mate from Cowra. And there I had been, not asleep, under the influence of drugs again, and we sat there at the locals table at the pub. The boys laugh now and say we ordered a couple of pizzas. I'd ordered a couple of pizzas, you know, being the hospitable person that I am, and I think I ate both of them because I hadn't eaten for about 5 days, which is another thing the drug does to you. So sometimes you just have to take a bit of humour out of the situation. I'm a bit like that, unfortunately. It's a bit warped. I think we all are as Australians sometimes. The intervention was very straight up and down, as you can imagine. 30-year-old something's, you know, one of the blokes is a bit older than that. They just confronted me and said that they heard that I was taking ice. And I just said, I admitted that I had been. But then I tried to minimalise the situation, marginalise, justify the drug use. I was heavily influenced by the drug at the time and scared the absolute shit out of the three of them with my response. And to their credit, they didn't let that, well, if anything, it probably galvanised why they came home for the intervention, and they moved very quickly to involve other people around me and to apply a lot of pressure for me to make a move myself. I have no idea why I did, and this is why I'm sharing my story. Why did I move? I believe this is part of the reason why I've had some fights with family members and stuff like that. I believed I moved in a fairly quick manner, but it wasn't quick enough for them. And I understand completely why it wasn't quick enough for them, because I was using drugs. It was, one day was enough. One more day doing this to myself was enough. As it turned out, the lease was due to expire 2015 in the financial year, the end of June 2015. We were very close to that time, just when the intervention had happened, and I moved to contact some trusted medical professionals. One of them being, and again I haven't discussed this with whether I could mention his name publicly, but I won't. But a doctor in Sydney who was actually away at the time and was hard to get hold of internationally, and I ended up contacting by text message and was suggested to get in contact with a counsellor. Again, I haven't discussed whether or not he's happy for me to mention his name publicly. Got in touch with him and had a meeting in Sydney and moved very quickly. It was recommended that I did need to go to a facility, and I made the decision that yes, I would go to a facility, a full-time facility, having done a little bit of research about a couple that he suggested, and from intervention to actually walking through the door, I think I wish I'd written it down. I was going to, let's just say, I'm going to say somewhere between 4 and 6 weeks. I'll maybe in one of my videos I'll tell you exactly how many days it was, because I think that's important for some people to know how quickly the process can start to turn around for you. So I moved very quickly, got myself into a facility in Sydney, did a 21-day program, Came out of there about, let's say, 4 weeks ago now, September, mid to late September, September 20. It's now towards the end of October now, 2016, that was an amazing experience. That facility, what it did for me, it is, and I'm sure that down the track when this thing takes off and we start looking at legal disclaimers and what I can and can't talk about, I can't wait to sing their praises publicly, but I won't at the moment because I don't know legally where I stand with doing these sorts of things. But it was an amazing experience, so I'm not going to talk much more about that, apart from the fact that it changed my life. So we now look at recovery. So this is what recovery now is. And I'm not in recovery. I've just had another Skype hook up with my counsellor last night, and he again had to play it straight with me and confront me and talk to me about what I was actually doing for my recovery. And I thought, you know, going to Perth and hanging out with my sister and taking time to recalibrate and organise university and think about the next stage of my life and turn my back on hospitality and understand that I can't go back working in the pubs, I thought that was all enough. But as it turns out, it's with the analogy that we use, it's paper mache and paper macheing a shop front, and out the back there's all sorts of different shits could potentially be going wrong. And I haven't been true to my recovery. I had to admit it to him. His words to me last night were, we're in harm minimisation mode. We're not in recovery mode. And I agree. I'd had a couple of beers. You know, they talk about abstinence and lowering of inhibitions and all those sorts of things that can go wrong with